made this work, I made this worse. We fell apart 1,000 times, 1,000 times. You moved away, I'm here to stay. I wish I could go back in time, back in time. I'm so sorry that I hurt you so deep. Swear I spent the last few years just trying to change. I'm on my knees and I'm begging you, please. Is there any chance you're thinking about me? If I change my ways, babe, won't you come back to me? Make no mistakes, babe, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? Yeah, I'm a mess, I'm not my best, but I won't stop until you're here, till you're here. You're miles away, it's safe to say. It's almost like you've disappeared, disappeared. I'm so sorry that I hurt you so deep. Swear I spent the last few years just trying to change. I'm on my knees and I'm begging you, please. Is there any chance you're thinking about me? If I change my ways, babe, won't you come back to me? Make no mistakes, babe, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? I just wanna let you know that I'll do anything to get you here. Oh, I could never let you go. I'll make it worth your while if you appear. If I change my ways, babe, won't you come back to me? Make no mistakes, babe, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? You made this work, I made this worse. We fell apart 1,000 times, 1,000 times. You moved away, I'm here to stay. I wish I could go back in time, back in time. I'm so sorry that I hurt you so deep. Swear I spent the last few years just trying to change. I'm on my knees and I'm begging you, please. Is there any chance you're thinking about me? If I change my ways, babe, won't you come back to me? Make no mistakes, babe, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back, come back, won't you come back to me? Come back, come back,
Hello, and welcome to the Healing Element Podcast. I am your host, Kai Marie. I'm truly looking forward to our program tonight regarding substance use in the Black community. Tonight, we have members from a committee that is actively working on closing the racial accessibility gap to substance use treatment. If this is your first time joining the Healing Element Podcast, welcome. The purpose of this podcast is to show you how you can break generational cycles of trauma in your life by creating generational cycles of healing. You have the power to stop the transmission of pain by beginning your healing journey today. You can catch new episodes every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that being said, now I want to welcome my guest tonight. We're going to be joined by NAADACs, members from NAADACs committee, Critical Issues in the Black Community. So we're in for a treat tonight. Tonight's episode has special meaning to me in being a member of the committee. So I'm super excited to have my guests here tonight. So now I want to start with introductions, and Katina, we will start with you, one of the co-chairs.
Thank you, Kai. Hello, everyone. I am eagerly glad to be here and thankful for this opportunity. I am Katina Palmer, one of the co-chairs for the Critical Issues in the Black Community Committee with the NAADAC organization. And my purpose of being here is to be a part of a listening group, but also to be a part of a helping group. I am committed to this work as I've been in the field for 25 years, and I'm looking forward to the changes that we can continue to impact so that change is something that we can achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now to Dr. Bakahia.
Thank you, Kai, for this opportunity. It is a privilege and an honor to be here tonight with the panelists. I'm so excited. I'm Dr. Bakahia Madison, the co-chair of the Critical Issues in the Black Community. I'm also a tenured professor and chair at Oakton Community College, Human Services and Substance Use Counseling Program. I am excited about this last year, so I'm excited to discuss this tonight, our opportunity to really work with all the members on the committee to talk about what we've achieved so far and where we're going in the future. So thank you again for this opportunity tonight.
Thank you. My pleasure. And Thurston, who I think this is his fourth time on the podcast, third or fourth time. So welcome back, Thurston.
Thanks so much. You just gave away my secret. Listen, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've heard it said once that you're judged, right, by the company that you keep. And if that's the case, boy, am I in good company. Privilege and honor to be here with Katina Palmer, Dr. Bakahia Madison, my great friend and colleague, Samson Teclamarian, and of course, we can't overlook the host because you are definitely the hostess with the mostest. Having said that, my name is Thurston Smith. I currently serve as an adjunct professor at Union University's Memphis College of Urban and Theological Studies. I'm a retiree from the U.S. Veterans Health Administration, where I served in a variety of leadership roles within the mental health service. I've been a member of NAADAC for well over 20 years, and I would also be remiss, got to give a big shout out to God. I'm associate minister at New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. I'm so excited to participate in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you. A pleasure to have you. And now to Samson.
Thank you so much, Kai. Just like everyone said, I'm super honored to be here. Thurston, out of all the many, many gifts and talents he has, he pronounced my name perfectly. Ethiopian last name that stumbles so many. Go ahead, Thurston. So my name is Samson Teclamarian. I'm currently the Vice President of Clinical Services for BHG Recovery Behavioral Health Group, the former Director of Training and Professional Development for NAADAC, the Association for Addiction Professionals, which is also where I was the staff liaison, the first staff liaison for this incredible committee that we've all become a part of, Critical Issues in the Black Community Committee. Right now, I'm honored to continue serving as a member of this committee, and I'm just really excited to have some dialogue and have some discussion about some of the incredible things that's already been accomplished, but also the long road ahead we have to keep building equitable solutions in our field and really in all of healthcare. Kai, again, thank you so much for the invite and for letting us be here.
Yes, thank you. I've been looking forward for this time to share with you all and just to share all the work that we've all been doing, but to make sure that other folks that maybe kind of are not in the space of substance use, that they're not aware of what's going on and all the changes that are occurring, that now they have the opportunity to know all the great work that's going on. So with that being said, if we do have people that are not familiar with NAADAC, or maybe this whole topic is something that's new to them, Samson, can you provide us a little bit of background as to NAADAC and also how this whole committee was created?
Yeah, great question. So NAADAC is the Association for Addiction Professionals, meaning they represent the addiction treatment workforce. There's a little bit over 12,000 current members of NAADAC. NAADAC has 48 affiliates, including some international affiliates. And we also, at NAADAC, also has a list of committees. And within those committees, there were committees kind of focused on, anything and everything you could think of, but there was no committee focused on the Black community. And last year in June 2020, shortly after the murder of George Floyd and several other murders happening around the world, we had scheduled a webinar called Substance Use Disorders in the African American Community. Ironically, it was scheduled in June 2020, but it was scheduled the year before, which is just interesting. It was scheduled November 2019 for June 2020. We had no idea what was going to happen that year, and that webinar was and currently is the most popular webinar in NAADAC's history. NAADAC does a bi-weekly webinar series, and we have never at NAADAC had 2,600 people plus attend a live webinar, close to 4,000 people complete it on demand. And it was within that webinar that someone suggested we need a committee to start working on these changes. And so someone suggested it in that committee or in that webinar, and NAADAC heard the idea and connected with everyone and kind of launched an email that just said, come one, come all, who wants to help? And you're seeing some of the wonderful faces who helped.
Awesome. And so I know that when I first heard about the committee of what was being established, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to learn more with everything going on, because so many times we see trauma occur in our community and there's really no space to talk about what's going on. And I have found in this committee, not only are you working to address issues, but also there's a safe space to talk about the experiences of what's going on around us. And I think that's so crucial, because a lot of times in our community, we don't have the space to talk about what we're seeing on the news or on social media. And sometimes we're just kind of left to sit with it. And so we all know that it's better to start to speak as far as what we're experiencing than just let all those emotions kind of sit within, because eventually they do come out. And I think the beauty of this committee is that you're able to begin to address or speak how you feel, but also then address the issues that are kind of causing what we're seeing in our community. So with that being said, we'll start with you, Dr. Bakahia. So you're one of the co-chairs. How did you become involved with NAADAC? And tell us a little bit more about the mission of the committee.
So I joined NAADAC maybe about 4 years ago. And part of it was just to have an opportunity to really educate my students, to really kind of get them involved in more international committees, and to just learn more about the field. So I thought, if I'm going to educate the students, I need to be a member myself so that I share the information. And so then I decided to, so when this opportunity came, I seen notices about several other committees. And then I was like, well, I don't have time. And then when this opportunity presented itself, I thought, wait a minute, I cannot pass this up. I don't know if I actually have the time to be a part of the committee, but you know what? Let me submit my application and see what happens. And from there, it was just, wow, here I became a part of the committee. And then when the opportunity came to decide who was going to lead the committee as co-chairs, that opportunity presented itself again by being nominated. I mean, I was very humble with that experience to be able to be nominated as the co-chair. And so it was exciting. And then to have Samson at the time as our leader to really help guide us. I don't know what we would have done without his leadership and to be able to move this committee. So just excited about the opportunity to, the mission of being able to develop these critical issues. We'll talk, I guess, further about that, but being able to develop these critical issues, and to look at what are the priorities in the Black community. I'm not reading a mission statement by verbatim, but just kind of summarizing. But being able to be a part of that and to really, I feel like, be a part of this movement with NAADAC. I didn't think I would be here today, so I'm very humble of the opportunity.
Yes, I will say this committee moves. I mean, it's when we have like our mindset on something, it gets done. This is not a committee that's not active. It's extremely active. And that's why I'm so honored to be a part of it. Katina, could you tell us about your journey to NAADAC and kind of your role on the committee?
Absolutely. My journey to NAADAC became a result of needing my continuing education credits, right? So one of the things that NAADAC does offer is the webinars and things of that nature. And going through the platforms of classes that they had, it was really interesting to me. And then one day, like Dr. Madison said, email came through and this committee was being formed. And I am a big proponent of being a part of the conversation of solution. After you talk about what the problem is, what are you willing to do to help correct what you're talking about? And so my motivation for joining this specific committee is because the way it was presented was that change was going to take place and they were looking for people to help effect that change on purpose. And it's something that ties into the work that I do. I work in the federal government, but I'm not a representative of my agency, which is why I don't speak in that vernacular, but having worked in the field for as long as I have, I am humbled every day that I am impacting someone's life. And I don't think that sometimes we as professionals truly realize how much of a difference we can make in someone's life. And we may not always get that acknowledgement while we're doing the work. Sometimes we get the benefit later on. And so the opportunity to be a part of a conversation and then being intentional about proposing solutions is what attracted me to submitting my application for the critical issues in the Black community. And yeah, so I nominated myself as a co-chair, as a chair, and I did that to take myself out of the comfort zone of, again, don't talk about the problem, help be about the solution. And so I was selected and I was excited, and it's been a wonderful experience because I've learned and I'm growing. And as a result, that makes me a better professional for the clientele that I serve. And so every opportunity that I get, I'm forever telling someone about the people that I'm working with on this committee because of the phenomenal work that we are doing and will continue to do.
So true. And to you, Thurston, what was when you've heard that this committee was being established, what was the draw for you to be a part of it?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, the outcome, right? Because, all of us that are on this panel this evening love this body of work that we're involved in. And so it was so interesting listening to Dr. Madison and Katina's story. I came by way of the committee through a little different mechanism. One of the NAADAC leaders actually reached out to me, I don't know, 18, 19 months ago, indicated to me that this committee was being formed, so it's during the inception of pulling all of the pieces together to establish committee that I was asked number one, was I interested? And, if you know me, right? It didn't take long to respond to that. So that was an unequivocal yes. And if I may add this, because I loved what Katina and Dr. Madison said. Effective leadership is about choosing the right person at the right place at the right time to do the right thing. And they couldn't have selected two better co-chairs than Dr. Madison and Katina. So, but anyway, that's a little bit about my history.
Awesome. And so to you, Samson, your role was a little bit different as a facilitator. And yes, the leader that I don't know how we could have navigated through all those waters without you. So very grateful to you and of course, our co-chairs. So could you tell us a little bit about the role that you had? And did you kind of have goals that you wanted to accomplish as a facilitator?
Yeah. So as staff liaison, I was really fortunate because it wasn't just me. I was really fortunate to have the mentorship of Cynthia Moreno-Tui, the executive director of NAADAC. At the time, my direct supervisor, who was the deputy director of NAADAC, Jessica Gleason, and even the director of communications, Kristen Hamilton. All the leaders at NAADAC were very invested. So they were sort of, meeting with me, coaching me, and helping me know how to craft this new committee that has never really happened before. And NAADAC hasn't had a new committee in a couple of years. And so I wanted to make sure to navigate those waters. And I'll tell you the truth, I just ran it like a group, like I'm a group counselor. And so my training, as a group counselor by Gerald Corey and Corey, my training was let the group sort of run itself, and I sort of kind of play in the background and support, and so that's what I did. I ran it like a group, and all the ideas came from the group. All the topics that people wanted to work on, it came from the group. The timing and who does what when, it all came from the group. And so I think I may have made it look hard, but it wasn't. It was actually really easy because of the committee, because of the people. The people made it easy. People jumped in, all the way and did some work. And I will say my one contribution, something we're still working on is I was very specific that I couldn't believe that our counselors every 2 years are getting relicensed and recertified without being required to take any diversity related training. And the fact that we require ethics, and in some states we require HIV or bloodborne pathogen trainings. And there's a list, depending on the state you practice in, where you're required to take a certain amount of hours of training, and yet we're providing treatment to an incredibly diverse population with no requirements to be competent in practicing in those populations. That for me, as a training professional, as a learning and development leader in this field, that for me was just abhorrent. I can't keep it going. You know what I mean? There are certain things now I'm flagging as intolerable. I don't want the next generation to even know this exists. I want to label it now as something I do not tolerate. And that way we can correct it. We can get passionate about it and create some solutions. So I may have over answered there, Kai.
No, that was perfect. Because I think at some point, we've all reached where it's kind of like enough is enough. And we have to start making changes, no matter how hard they may seem. It could feel like an uphill climb. But as you said, Samson, you don't want the next generation to continue have the same type of conversations that we're having right now. So that being said, I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into our conversation tonight. And I'm sure a lot of people that are watching, they know that there are gaps in service that exist when it comes to substance use treatment for the Black community. And, you look at all different type of areas that we have in human activity, if you will, and you see that there's always some type of racial disparity that exists. So of course, we're also seeing that in treatment and care for the Black community. So this question to Dr. Bakahia, what role do you see the committee has in starting to address these roles? Understanding that can't do everything, but what kind of role do you see the committee playing in beginning to address some of these issues? And then we'll open it up to the rest of the panel.
Well, and I should have said this earlier about joining the committee, was really holding systems accountable and really not just making statements, but really demanding that certain policy changes happen around these critical issues in the Black community. So I was really driven by that. And I've been driven by that with the committee. It's kept me motivated because this is one of the main international organizations that I'm really aware of, such as NAADAC, where this system has allowed us to come in and really draft and really work at those critical issues in the Black community, and really having some of those heavy, difficult conversations. And so I think that the first start was this committee started to have that dialogue and really like, what action do we want to take? Now, obviously, we all live in different geographical areas and different states, but we are here with the same mission and the same goal. And I think that that has kept the cohesiveness and the drive and the compassion and being champions for this committee, because we know that the work doesn't happen. They always say it takes 3 years to really see any change. We've only been around 1 year, this committee. So we know that change takes time. And so as we're going, we're constantly analyzing and determining not just what's happening in our state, but just what's happening globally, what we need to do as it relates to this committee. So I'm really excited about the fact that we have made some movement. We've had summits. We're drafting some policy changes that we want to see happen. And we're also looking at other critical issues. We're participating in hearings. We're doing all these different things to really let people know that we're out there and that we're really serious about not making statements, that we're really trying to take action. So,
So true. Perfectly said. Would any of our other panelists like to weigh in and add to what Dr. Bakahia just said?
Yeah, I just had an epiphany. Kind of interesting. We all need to give a big shout out to NAADAC because, look, so let me tell you, NAADAC was not established by people of color. NAADAC was not established by Black folks. And although I haven't done a poll of other professional associations like the National Association of Social Workers, the American Psychological Association, National Board for Certified Counselors, so on and so forth, regarding any positions that they have taken in support of racial equity throughout and changing the entire paradigm, but NAADAC has done that. And I'm very, very proud of that. Having said that, and going back to your initial question, Kai, this is absolutely amazing because here's the second epiphany. I've been asked to be the plenary speaker at the Alabama State University Conference next month, and the title of my presentation is Apathy versus Advocacy, Improving Access to Care Within Community of Colors. Well, here's the thing. It's not that I don't necessarily have the skill set, but let me just give the kudos to the critical issues in the Black community. So I'm just going to take that a step further, right? And say that I wouldn't have been asked to deliver this presentation if it were not for this committee. Thirdly, even within the city of Memphis and surrounding areas of West Tennessee, I've been asked to help out here locally and on the state level as it relates to healthcare access issues. So having said that, just like what Dr. Madison just said, I think we're having a substantive impact. And a big part of that also is that we've got some fiery people, some highly competent individuals serving on this committee with a very broad and reputable acumen, professional acumen. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yes. And would anyone else like to add? Katina?
Yeah, so the one thing that I would add, well, 2 things. First, it was said earlier, but I really do attribute a lot of what we've been able to do to Samson because of his foresight in wanting to make change and being very, very vocal about that. And then encouraging us to go outside of our comfort zones and really make sure that what we are communicating is effective and necessary, right? And so I appreciated that from him. And as a result, we're talking about critical issues in the Black community, but our committee isn't just of people of color. And that's another indication of us moving the pendulum of inviting others into the conversation and spreading the educational component of this committee so that people working in this field will have an understanding of what it is to work with people of color, right? And just acknowledging their own biases. And we, as persons of color, may have our biases as well. And so we get to learn and grow in that stead. And I think that's one of the silent benefits that you get being a member here, because like right now, we have 2 new people wanting to join the committee because they want to bring something new to the table. And to Thurston's point and Dr. Madison's, just the volume of skill sets that we are amongst gives us the opportunity to champion some of the critical issues and then actually do something about them and not just be mouthpieces. So I can definitely say since our start of 2020 to present, we have grown, we have actually produced. We have a pre-conference coming up, then you have your annual conference, and then we're even talking about the engagements in the Black Community Summit #2 for 2022. So we are being intentional about continuing the goals that we set out and not just puppets, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Wonderfully said. Samson, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
I'll just add, I mean, again, this team is incredible, but, look at Kai Marie, y'all. Like, I know we're not supposed to do this because you're the host, but Kai jumped into every single project we had, when it was, hey, we need help with this, she's jumping into the position paper. When it was, hey, we need help with the summit, she's jumping in to help. And so every single portion of this, of what we've built, Kai Marie with all the talents and really helping to shape African Americans' perspective of wellness and health and healing and hope, and so we have leaders, right? That's what we have. We have Thurston with the legacy that he brings and the incredible army that he brings of knowledge with advocacy, with government relations, with actually getting policies to stick and be sustainable. And so we're learning from his work. We've got Katina and Bakahia bringing, 2 completely different perspectives as a practitioner in DC and as a professor and practitioner in Chicago. And now I'm in Atlanta, Thurston's in Tennessee, and so we're kind of bringing it together. But the truth is that that's what it requires. It requires this plus more. We know change cannot happen without a community of change agents, and so that's what we're trying to be, because the list is long. There are way too many things in the system that are designed against us. And, I have somebody asking me once, why isn't there critical issues in the white community? And, I'm like, okay, that's called Earth. And so that's everywhere. If anything, look at the opioid epidemic. It's like, whoa, alarms go off, save the world, the planet is crashing. This hit white rural America. We got to do something, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very, very clear that the system is designed to cure and research issues that are happening in the white community. The moment it hits the white community, the alarms go off. So that's not an issue. We are a committee, critical issues in the Black community, because there's just too long of a list. The fact that our residential treatment programs and addiction treatment are almost filled with men coming from the criminal justice system, the same justice system that over incarcerates Black men, there's a line there, there's a pipeline, and I don't want to be involved in that. But being in addiction treatment, I'm a part of that system. We all are, and so just that pipeline, that's one of many issues that we don't talk about. We're not aware of. There are counselors working in residential treatment programs, and they know half of the guys in there are in there because a broken system over incarcerated and massively incarcerated them at a young age. And so we know we're providing treatment, a disease treatment model to someone who's dealing with a social justice issue and a disease as a result of it, Correct. And so there's a lot, that we have to work on. We have a long way to go. We need 3 or 4 Katinas about 7 or 8 Thurstons. We need about 6 or 7 Bakahias and Kai Maries. So I'll say, anyone who's listening, join because NAADAC is like Thurston said, is really, really stepped up. You can go to their website and just search Black Lives Matter, and you'll see a really powerful position statement. You can go to their website and search engagement in the Black community, and you'll see 4 on-demand webinars that will just blow your mind. I mean, really great content, great information, and people that are all signing up to make a change.
Right. Kai, do you mind if I make a quick comment to tie into something that's
Yeah, please do.
The subsequent to me being invited to deliver this presentation at the Alabama State University, the research that I've been involved in has resulted in just a profound learning experience for me, which is precisely why I tell folks all the time, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. But to tie this piece into exactly what Samson said, the Racial Equity Institute, this is their quote: racial disparities persist throughout every system in America without exception, unquote. And when I saw that statement, I attended a presentation last Friday in part by the Racial Equity Institute and the Groundwater Group. Absolutely phenomenal. So Samson, it's kind of interesting. I was a little bit jaded, right, when the committee first formed. Well, not a little bit jaded. Jaded is not the word. A little bit skeptical, because I was not confident at our early inception that we were really going to do a deep dive and really get dirty, get down in the mud, because this work requires this is hard work, and it just requires a lot of effort. Now, looking at where we're at now from where we came from, we have actually exceeded my expectations. And I can only guess where we'll be, you all, 1 year from now. So thank you for letting me share that.
No, of course. And I think that's what happens when you have people come together that are passionate, but also saying, okay, what can we start doing? As Dr. Bakahia said, we're looking to start putting action behind the words that we're saying. And also we're looking to see results. So we're not just going to just talk about the change that's needed. We're also going to start putting together some actionable items to make sure that we begin to see progress. And I think one thing that I really appreciate about the committee is that we are using our language and we are defining who we are. And we're saying this is what we need. And I think so many times in our community, we usually have someone external coming in to tell us, well, this is what you need to do. And what I love about our committee is that we're saying, no, this is what we need to do. And this is how we think we need to do it. And we can back it up with data and experience. So I can't talk, I tell everybody about the committee because it's such a pleasure to be a part of something that is really working to make change, but also just not kind of change locally, but just across the spectrum. Like you said, everybody is from different areas of the country, and we're looking to create an impact everywhere. And I think that's beautiful and awesome, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, different areas of the country, but all in the same room. How about that?
Yeah, very true. So I want to jump in to talk about, we kind of see, and Samson, you kind of mentioned a little bit about what we're seeing when we're looking at the inequality that exists in treatment and in services. Would anyone like to add a little bit more about what they have seen kind of through their work before we jump into kind of historically, so that way we can see, because right now we're looking at the outcomes. But I think to take a step back and say, well, this is kind of what led to us having these type of gaps. But are there any other gaps that anyone would like to mention that you look forward to addressing through the committee?
I mean, I don't have a watch. My wrist will break out if I wear a watch. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But how much time do you have? So I'll just throw.
We'll do a part 2 for Samson.
You're talking about gaps. I will say, you know what? I feel like I've been negative. So let me say a positive and share a gap. So one gap that we identified was, there was a huge gap of presenters and experts being pushed forward in our field, who we see that we would go to for a topic on women and addiction, or on men's health and addiction, or on LGBTQ issues and addiction, or on wellness. The faces that we saw kind of all looked the same, to be quite honest, before this committee was brought forward. And I will tell you that gap in who is being propelled forward in the professional arena also impacts those who are receiving clinical services. Because if they don't see experts, if they don't see leaders in the field that look like them, that represent their community, that understand where they're coming from, that creates another access to care issue. And because it creates a distrust, it's a them versus us versus, us having a holistic perspective on who is presenting. And so there's two perspectives, right? Either, oh, maybe the experts don't exist. Maybe there ain't no Black experts. We know that's not true. Or the issue that maybe they haven't been invited to the table, which that was one of our first conversations is, are we being assertive? Are we being maybe even aggressive in bringing people to the table and asking them, inviting them, and even pursuing diverse experts to the table and making sure that they are part of that discussion? And so in less than a year, we really transformed NAADAC's education model, and the amount of diversity represented. I mean, I think it almost quadrupled the amount of Black professors, experts, and leaders that are presenting at NAADAC webinars, annual conferences, local, regional, state conferences, writing research papers that are being published in the Advances in Addiction Recovery magazine, seen by 78,000 people. Dr. Sheree Watkins, Mark Sanders, Dr. Anthony Anderson, many others, sort of being propelled forward. And so that gap is something that I'm always watching, I'm looking at, because I know we exist. I know we're out there, and I see them. I follow them on LinkedIn. I follow them on YouTube, so I know they exist. But now I ask myself, how come they're not at, the NCAD conference? How come they're not at NAADAC conference? So I look at these conferences, and I am scanning, and I am looking, and I'm probably not the only one. So it's important for them to start paying attention,
I would definitely say one of the things we also need to do is close the gap in the educational realm, right? So when I went to grad school, my master's in rehabilitation counseling, and with a concentration in EAP, and I went to a predominantly white institution, and so my training beyond what I went after wasn't there. So issues that pertain to persons of color wasn't a part of my academia, but it became a part of what became my future life in the work that I do, because of the types of internships and things that I sought out. So one of the things that I think we definitely need to do is look at who we're educating and how we're educating, to Samson's point, in terms of who's sitting at the table. Because in my early 20s, I did not know about NAADAC, right? Mm-hmm. So how much more could someone who is just starting out and they're groomed to be effective in this field, how much more effective, how much more could they actually get done under the right tutelage, under the right leadership, under the right opportunities of being asked to present and things of that nature? And so I'm just saying it from my standpoint, because I have kids who are going to school, and one of the things that I'm advocating for them is awareness and going out of their comfort zone, knowing what the language is and knowing who's in the room and how to assert yourself so that you can get your needs met, right? Because you never know who you're going to come across. You never know when the times are going to change and when you're going to be the person who stands in need of help, right? Mm-hmm. And so advocacy, I think, is something that needs to be just always going. It's not a one-stop shop. Once you get something accomplished, you don't stop there. I think it needs to be intentional and purposeful, but also with the end result of broadening your horizons, not just for your personal benefit, but for those you're going to come into contact with.
So true. And I'm so engaged in this that I forgot to say, give this video a thumbs up. Please share. We're like 15 minutes left. I'm just saying. So, but if you're finding this video helpful, please do share with your networks. and just find out how you can become engaged in change in with substance use, specifically when you were looking at how issues are addressed in the Black community. Thurston, going to you. I know you think you wanted to add something.
I did, but I saw Dr. Madison open her mouth, so that to me that was her nonverbal said that she wanted to say. So I'm going to defer to her.
Okay, Dr. Bakahia, you are up.
Okay. I was just going to only add just a minute that I've been on this movement about what's happening with Black women in maternal care and labor and delivery, and the deaths that we've seen across the nation. And so my focus has really, I've spent a lot of time on statewide committees and other projects around this issue, and really holding the healthcare system and other systems that collaborate, that perpetuate what we're seeing around Black women's death who have a substance use or a mental health condition, how it's being addressed. And so I'm really, and when I think about the gaps, we've moved, but we need to address the racial health equity issue that we see, and we cannot stay quiet. And I have not, in the work that I've been doing, and because of that, I've been pulled a lot now to speak around racial equity issues in the healthcare system, even though I don't work in a healthcare system, but all my patients at one time visited healthcare system. So I really have a lot of history with the system. And then now I'm at the table with a lot of doctors talking about what we're doing statewide to address that issue. And I appreciate that the governor in the state of Illinois is allowing us to make recommendations. And even in our recommendations, we're calling out if those cases were if it was racism or discrimination. So we are not playing games around what's happening with the Black maternal care. And so I'm really pushing this around the substance use issue. I always say I don't have anything to lose. Let's hope. But I'm not going to stay quiet on the issue.
And Dr. Bakahia, to your point, and you said this earlier about systems, changing systems. And I think that's so important because you can work with an organization, but if their structure itself has a lot of inequality in it, once, let's say you've developed a relationship with that figurehead, if you will, once that person leaves, then it's kind of like you're starting all over again. So I think what you said, changing systems, is so key, because once you begin to change that structure, that automatically you're going to start producing different outcomes. And so thank you for all the work that you're doing. That's so important. And I know we're running, oh my gosh, time is just moving by so slow. So Thurston, I know you have a question, but really quick.
No, I have a few comments.
Okay, 1 second. So in what you're going to say, I also want you to tie in a little bit of historically of how we kind of arrived to the outcomes that Dr. Bakahia, Samson, also Katina has spoken on, because this is going to segue us right into talking about what substance use counselors can start to do to begin to advocate for change as far as the approach to care and treatment for the Black community.
Excellent. Fits right in with what I was going to say. First of all, for the benefit of your viewers and for the listening audience, although our body, our panel, although each of us holds specialties within counseling and the additional subspecialty within substance abuse and mental health, keep in mind that when we're talking about access to treatment, per the research that's out there, number one, treatment access or the complexities thereof is multidimensional. Number two, as it relates to people of color accessing treatment, the problems relating to access is not exclusive to the paradigm of substance abuse and mental health. That data is virtually identical as it relates to people of color accessing healthcare in general. Number three, Black people, and this is per the research from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, African American represent the highest ethnic group that's noted for being misdiagnosed, We're the predominant users of psychiatric facilities rather than outpatient clinics. So we have, and so when we have this conversation about access, it's clearly multidimensional, and it involves all of these different moving parts. Now, to put closure on Kai's question, it's very important that practitioners, whether they be entry level, intermediate, or advanced level practitioners, do as much research as you can. Study, involve yourself with the utilization of evidence-based practices. Make sure you get good supervision, and to pull what Katina said in to this piece, advocacy is absolutely critical. And advocacy, if you are a licensed or certified counselor, actually the code of ethics that you sign require that you advocate effectively on behalf of your clients.
Thank you for that, Thurston. Katina, would you like to add as far as what substance use counselors can do so that they can truly be advocates and provide the best service for their clients that they may serve who are members of the Black community?
Yes, one of the things that I would wholly suggest is learn about the institutions that you're going to refer your clients to, right? It's one thing to say, hey, go get treatment, go get help. But if you know nothing about what they're offering and the needs that your clients are going into the programs with, where you are sending them may not be compatible. So like here in the District of Columbia, one of the things I have taken upon myself in my current work position is to pick up the phone and find out who's doing what comes with it, and what are the requirements, right? Because the person that's in front of me, I know if it's not going to be beneficial to them, then we're just wasting time, dollars, and effort. And not everybody needs the same services in order to recover. And we have to be inclusive of how we deal with people. So when we're interacting with folk, learn what it is to, mindfulness is one of the newer components that's out there with working with people in recovery. Motivational interviewing is one of the components that's out there working with people in recovery, but also learning how to listen and respond according to what's being said and not necessarily interpret. One of the things that I've learned in this field is that a lot of people assume it's the same person coming through the door again, so I'm just going to give them what I'm used to giving them instead of finding out who's sitting in the chair. The biggest thing we can do is find out who's sitting in the chair so that the services we connect into are in direct result of affecting their lives as they need the help and not necessarily what we think that person should be doing.
Excellent point. Thank you, Katina. And to you, Samson, and then Dr. Bakahia.
Everything ditto to everything Katina and Thurston said, just so on point. I'll just add one thing is that, it's important for counselors. It shouldn't even be a foreign concept, but it's important for counselors to note that any people group or person or client that has experienced a form of oppression, they will respond more effectively to an expressive treatment model. And most of our treatment models are curriculum driven, CBT based. They're not designed to promote expression within the therapeutic relationship. And so you need to sort of stretch your counseling muscles and learn about art therapy, music therapy, journaling, doodling, whatever it is that promotes the voice of your patient, because you're not just there as a listener. When you're dealing with someone of another culture, you're also there to help them find their voice. And sometimes if someone is dealing with some sort of trauma in their background, or especially if it's related to systemic racism or related to racial injustice in some way, providing an expressive therapeutic model can really support their recovery and that therapeutic process. So that's the tidbit that I'll pass on. The other part, when y'all talk about advocacy, is it is time for counselors to become socially responsible. So when we say you're their advocate, like Thurston said, it is in the code of ethics, not just for counselors, by the way, it's for nurses, through the NASW and ASWB for social workers. Right. It's also for physicians, for MDs, through the AMA, the big APA for psychiatrists, and through the ASAM for addiction psychiatrists. So if you are in the helping profession, you are technically mandated by your code of ethics to also be the advocate, not just the service provider of your patient. And if they're dealing with something where there's a health literacy hiccup, and they're not quite understanding what they have access to, what they can apply for. That is your role. That is your responsibility, not just to provide that treatment service, but also to advocate and get them that next step further.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
I will close this by saying I agree with everyone, but we have to teach people how to advocate. And one of the things I learned when I transitioned from being a director of a large community-based center is that I was mentored how to get out there and advocate, even when I was a clinical director. I didn't learn this in school. I didn't learn this through supervision. I learned this through a group of women called the Rebecca Project out of Washington, D.C. And they taught me everything I needed to know, even down how to dress and comb my hair when it was time to advocate for funding, when it was time to advocate in the community, how to speak, how many minutes, what to advocate for. I learned that. So I took that when I transitioned to the academia was I have to teach students and counselors and other people that I mentor how to advocate. Most people have no idea what to do. They're nervous, they're scared, they're for social justice, but they're like, what do I go and do? What if something happened? What if I'm faced with racism? Right. What if this, so you have to teach people. And so for me, I've changed my role and I'm teaching people how to advocate. And I'm also inviting them. When I advocate, or also when I'm doing community work out there, I invite people to join me. Come on, I'm getting ready to feed 100 people. This is how we advocate. Oh, come on, I'm going to be over at the Hill. If you're around, come join me on the Hill. Mm-hmm. I invite people so that they learn how to advocate and know what to advocate. And then I'll close by saying at Oakton College, every year we have a theme. And I appreciate that. Last year was poverty and privilege. This year is trauma-informed care. So I go into the classroom already talking about how to advocate based on the college theme. So it puts me right in that position where I don't have to figure out anything. And I love it that everybody across all disciplines, you could be in biology, you better be talking about trauma-informed care. You got to figure it out in your classroom. So that's important when it comes to addressing substance use or mental health in the field. So I'll close with that.
Thank you so much. I just find it such an honor to host you all tonight, and time is just like escaped. So we're kind of winding down here. So before we come to a close, Dr. Bakahia, could you share with us how people could learn more about the committee?
So I think we've kind of made statements. I know Samson, he put it out there for us to be able to join the committee by accessing the website, NAADAC.org. And there's a list of committees. I'm not sure, Samson may have to help me out which tab it would be under in terms of how to join the committees, but you submit an application and Katina and I, as co-chairs, will reach out to you in terms of your interest in joining the committee. We are excited to have new ideas, to really just have that collaboration and that opportunity. So please visit NAADAC. Thank you for putting it in the chat. So please join, visit the website, learn about the committee. I hope tonight was helpful in terms of engaging you into the work. There's plenty of work to do.
Yes, there is. Thank you so much. And so now that we are coming to a close now, everyone who's listening, you can now check out the website so that way you can become involved. So thank you so much for that, Samson. And so now coming to a close, just if there's any parting words that you want to leave with our guests tonight, it can be regarding your experience, a message that you want to get across, work that you're doing that could be separate from the committee, but anything that you want to leave with our listeners tonight. Thurston, we'll start with you. Then we'll go to Dr. Bakahia, then Katina, and Samson will end with you. Well,
this has been absolutely fabulous. Time has gone by rapidly. We are interested in you joining the organization. So please, again, like Dr. Madison said, please visit our website, but you can't be a member of the committee until you become a member of the organization. for any individual that's listening to us this evening that has a family member that's struggling with mental health or substance use disorders, please reach out to your local facilities. You can actually go to the even the NAADAC website, and there's a list of resources for treatment there. If you're a professional, then we would love you to become a part of the great work that we're doing. And I think we've already shared that information with you. Kai, you're a fantastic host, great panel. I thank you all so much for the opportunity to join.
Thank you, Thurston.
I would say the same, Kai. Thank you for this opportunity to be a part of this collaboration and to be on the panel. Thank you, Thurston, for reminding everyone to join the organization. Hopefully they would have saw that. But I would just say, join us, come be champions with us. We look forward to having you be a part of the NAADAC organization, but most important, the committee.
Thank you, Dr. Bakahia. Katina.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful experience. I've learned even more just sitting, listening to you all talk. And I would encourage people to come out their comfort zone and don't underestimate what you have to offer and what you can bring to the table. We all are experts in our own ways. So I just encourage people when you're researching, don't look at what others are doing, but ask yourself, what else can you do to add to the change that we're thinking about?
Thank you, Katina. And we'll close with Samson.
Thank you so much, Kai. Thanks everyone for this. I will just add, one piece. I think we've talked a lot to the people who are passionate and interested, just like us. So right now, I'm going to speak to the ones who aren't, just in case if someone accidentally stumbled across this. If your reaction to the topic of diversity and equity solutions is defensiveness, and you have to ask yourself, what is it you're trying to defend? What are you trying to protect? Because your action after that most likely is avoidance, right? We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to fix this. Everybody's the same. I'm colorblind. I was trained not to see color. That avoidance, that color blindness is not the cure to division in our nation. It's actually the cause. And so what we are doing is dismantling that notion of color blindness, because color is beautiful. And what we're trying to figure out is all of the nuances and shades and the fact that right now, if you learned about Black history and Black culture 10 years ago, right now you don't know nothing. It's expired, because this culture is evolving and growing, and it is like a human being. It is constantly growing. And so, yes, you do need to renew your knowledge continually about that cultural group you are working with, especially if it's in the professional healthcare arena. And so I challenge you to ask yourself the right questions. Why am I feeling defensive when this topic comes up? What am I trying to defend? What am I trying to protect? And why am I avoiding it? Because we know those words are not quite why we came into this field. We didn't come into this field to avoid. So if you're here to help, you can. We've given you some tons of resources. Thanks, Kai.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Again, it's been an honor to host you tonight. And thank you everyone who's been listening. Please give this video a thumbs up and also share. We shared some important information here, and we definitely want to get the word out on what is going on through this committee to really make lasting change. And like Dr. Bakahia said, we're looking at making structural changes, and that's key if you want long-lasting change in any area of society. So thank you all so much for listening. If you want to learn more about me and my services, please visit KaiMarie.com and also follow me on Instagram, KaiMarie_LLC. With that being said, I hope you all have a great night, and I will see you next Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.